last time we had author Camilla Gibb here, she was pregnant and dutifully doing the publicity rounds for her novel, The Beauty of Humanity Movement. But what the world didn't know was that 8 weeks into that pregnancy, Gibb's personal life had come crashing down around her. Her wife announced she was leaving the marriage, leaving a pregnant Gibb reeling. This Is Happy is Gibb's return to the written world, this time non-fiction. It's her memoir outlining her journey through grief and loss, and she joins us in studio. Congratulations on This Is Happy.
Thank you.
And coming up with that. It must have been incredibly difficult to make maybe the decision to do, but then to go back and I guess in a sense relive such agony.
Felt necessary. I had to find my way back, and it was really through writing that I could find my way back.
When you think of some, I mean, you go way back too. I mean,
I go way back. Yeah.
You talk about your childhood.
I do.
You struggled through that. Your father struggled through mental illness. How do you make the decision, this I'm going to include, this I'm keeping private?
It's a good question. I think, you know, what I came to understand about the way we experience grief and loss in our present often has echoes in the past. And so to understand what's happening today, I really had to go far back to understand my early experiences of loss.
So there's some, you know, it's cathartic to some degree going through this.
It is cathartic to some degree, but it's, you know, it's brutal at the same time because you do relive it when you're writing it. And what choices do you make about what to include? Well, it felt like if I was going to go the distance, I would go the distance. And so I was probably more honest. And I have an editor who pushes me, you know.
Of course.
And she smells dishonesty, you know, and sees when there's artifice or avoidance and will push me even that much further.
So, you know, we mentioned, and 8 weeks pregnant, and your wife says, I'm leaving the relationship, I'm leaving physically, I'm walking out. How low on your own scale were you? How hard did you crash?
It's almost impossible to put into language, and I think that's where I struggled. I completely lost language. It's like there's no thought, there's only feeling. And it was a feeling of terror, to be honest. I think because you've got this new life inside you. You're supposed to grow this new life when you don't even know what your own life is any longer. And so how do you move out of that?
At some point you started to really worry, though, because of the stress in your life and all of your concerns. You started worrying about what could this be doing to the baby?
You do, inevitably. I mean, we all do. We all worry we've eaten a piece of brie and we're going to, you know. But in this, at this point, I worried that the intensity of my grief, my feelings, my anger, my, you know, pain would somehow pollute the baby or just ruin the baby. Right?
Somebody brought you perspective on that, though.
Very much so. I went to see a social worker, and I said, you know, can I ruin this baby with my grief? And she said, you know, perfectly healthy. This is quite a harsh thing to say, but she said perfectly healthy babies were born in concentration camps in order to give me some perspective. You know, of course, there were perfectly unhealthy babies as well born, but she wanted to give me some perspective, which is, you know, we're not going through a Holocaust here. And it did give me, it was very sobering.
As you moved through your journey and your family became something quite different than what you had thought that it might be, with living with different people in a house. When the book is called This Is Happy, there's a lot of agony in the book, but the uplifting, I guess, and you know, the inspiring part of it is the relationships along the way.
What emerges is something I could never have seen coming out of the ashes. I mean, first I employ a Filipino nanny who saves my bacon.
Yeah.
A new friend appears at a strange time when I'm crying all the time and I'm pregnant. It's a strange time to make a new friend, especially one who doesn't have children, but she's a lonely PhD student from the East Coast who kind of moves into our circle. My brother turns up, my brother from whom I've been estranged for years, who has a problem with heroin. But is now in recovery. He turns up, and at various points along the way, they all live with me in this house, and at the heart of it is this baby.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to be civilized because of this baby, and we're all in some ways rehabilitating each other, giving each other a sense of home and family for a time.
Wow, it's an amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing part of it with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
You can find This Is Happy on our iBook page. Head to ibooks.com/CanadaAM.